Let's look at how we can work around what are called two-dimensional arrays or 2D arrays. Or like we talked about before, 2D, any array can have an initialization or can be uninitialized. But the difference between 1D array and 2D array is that a 1D array just has one row, while this 2D array has got rows and columns. So I'm going to start off with an 2D array that is uninitialized. So this is how you declare your 2D array. That is dim, and then you write the name of the array. I'm going to call it 2D array, like this, and then you write the size of the 2D array. These are the rows and the columns. So I'm going to write an array with 3 rows and 3 columns. So this is how we write it. That's 2, 2. Now you wonder why we're writing 2 rows and 2 columns when we are saying we need an array with 3 rows and 3 columns. Mind you, this is not the rows or the column. These are the sizes of the rows and the columns. So an array runs from 0. So this is going to run from 0, 1 and 2. That would be 3 rows, and this is going to run from 0, 1 and 2. That would be 3 columns. So you write it as 2. It's always minus n. That is the size of the array. And then you write as the data type. I'm going to write it as integer, like this. And then we now need to accept data from the user. So this is how we do it. We use a for loop, that is for I. Now this for I is going to start off accepting data for the rows. That is for I is equals to 0 to 2. Now, since we have a row and a column, I have just declared a for loop for a row, and now I need to declare a for loop for a column. Now these will be nested loops because they're going to be functioning for the same rows and for the same columns. So I'm going to now declare my next for loop as for I, as for j, which is equals to 0 to 2. So when the row becomes 1, the column also moves to 1. When the row becomes 2, column also moves to 2 during the increment. So this is how we do it. When these 2 for loops run, we're going to be accepting data from the user. So we first ask the user to enter a number. So console.writeLine, and we ask the user enter a number, like this, and every number that we are going to be getting from the user, we're going to be saving it. So follow correctly. This is how we save these values. So this is how we do it. We write console.readLine. Sorry, we have to prefix that, and I'm just going to continue like this, console.readLine, but we need to prefix the array. So we're going to say 2D array. 2D array for loops counters are going to be accepting values into row, that is I, and values into column, that is j. So we're saying everything that is going to become accepted from the keyboard from the console is going to be saved in I and j as rows and column, like this. So this is how we do it. And now we need to make sure that our for loops are closed. So the first for loop is opened here and it's closed here, and the second one is opened here and it's closed here. This is just for accepting values, and I'm just going to make a demarcation after the acceptance of values, that is console.writeLine. I'm just going to put a line after each and every input, like this. Now after the loops run from 0 to 2, we now need to display our values. So I'm going to write another for loop again, that is for, I'm going to call it for x. Now as long as you're working with 2D arrays, you'll be using two sets of loops that are nested for every procedure that you need to undertake. So I'm going to say for x is equals to 0 to 2, that would be outputting I. That would be outputting raw, sorry. And then the next for loop is going to output the column. So I'm going to call it for y is also going to run from 0 to 2, like this. So this is how you then output. So when these loops run every time, it's going to display this information, console.writeLine. Console.writeLine. So the first thing that we need to do now, we just need to tell the user what will be happening. So we're going to be telling the user that for index that will be displayed, so we just write index, this is text, and then we put a semicolon, and then we're going to be writing, for instance, we're going to be having index 00, index 01, but we need to pick that automatically from our loops here. We don't need to type that. So the program will be picking as per our direction. So we say index, and I'm going to open a bracket like this, and then I put an end because I now need to put the variable x. So I'm going to say index x, and then I need to put a semicolon, but it's going to be text, so I need to make sure that I put an end, and then I put a semicolon, it's a colon, sorry, and then I'm going to also display the value for y, so I then put another end, since I'm going to be displaying a variable, and then I put a y like this, okay, and then I need to close this opening bracket here, so I put it in quotes because it's going to appear as text, but make sure that you don't leave out the end, and then you put your quotes. So it's going to output the value for x like this, and the index for y like this. So it will be written, I'm going to just put it as a comment. So for instance, we're going to be just having like index 0.0. So basically that would be our output, but we're not done because we're only outputting the index, but we're not outputting the values that would have been entered by the user in each array. So then we go ahead and output everything that would be accepted in the array. So I'm going to put an end again to separate everything that I've done before, and then I'm going to say everything from 2D array as looped by the variables x and y. So we're going to be doing it like this, that is x comma y like this. Now you wonder why we didn't take the value I and j. Understand, I and j, x and y, they're just counters. But if we write I and j in this loop, since we haven't declared it inside here, inside this loop, it won't actually be referenced. But you don't have to worry because x will just take the values and increment them as I will do, and the j will just do the same as y will do. So we need to actually include something because I need to make sure that there is a space between this text here and that is in quotes and the values that are going to be outputted by this array here. So I'm just going to put in the space character. So we do it like this, just do it like this, you type space, and then you put the size of spacing you want. I'm just going to be wanting the size space 1, and then you just put an end here. So every time you are writing something that is a VB.NET command, you make sure that you separate it with an end sign. but everything that will be in quotes, it will be outputted as text. So this will be text, and this will be text, and this will be text. Now the last thing that we need to include before we run our code is what is called console.read key. This one will make sure that your screen doesn't just disappear after it displays information. So I'm going to type console.read key. This means that our program will only exit the screen after we click any key. So let's run this code and see. Okay, so I'm just going to enter any number. So as you can see, at index 0, 0, we have 4, and incrementing until we reach to index 2. So this is how it is. These will be our rows. We have rows 0, 1, and 2. These are 3 rows, and we have columns 0, 1, and 2. These are 3 columns again. So basically, we have done justice to our code, and when you do that, you can just exit and you're done. But then now we need to work on an